My late girlfriend's mother came for her clothes. Then she said, she paid for this house. I laughed, until her lawyer sent the spreadsheet. Amber died 9 months ago. She was 32. One morning, she collapsed at work, and by the time I got to Memorial Health, she was already gone. The doctor said it was a sudden aneurysm. No warning. No goodbye. 1 minute she was carrying plates to a table, and the next, the life we were building together just stopped. I had a ring at home. That was the part one did not tell most people at first. I had bought it 2 months before she died. I was going to propose in Forsyth Park in the spring because Amber loved the fountain there. She always said it made Savannah look like a movie. Every time we walked past it, she squeezed my hand and said, "One day, we need a real picture here, not one where you blink." I had planned the dinner. I had not planned what to do with a ring after the woman it was meant for was lying under a white blanket. After the funeral, the house became unbearable. Every room still had her in it. Her mug was beside the sink. Her hair tie was around the bathroom cabinet handle. Her work shoes were by the back door. The lavender she planted in the yard was drying out because I could not bring myself to water it. Touching her things felt like admitting she was never coming back. For 2 weeks, I barely slept. I went to work because bills do not pause for grief, but I was useless. I am a broker, and my job depends on talking to people and sounding normal. I could barely remember what day it was. My mother, Anna, kept telling me to eat. My brother Clayton came over and fixed little things without asking. He took out the trash, changed a porch light, brought food I did not want, and sat with me without forcing me to talk. Amber's younger sister, Molly, checked in too. She was 22, an artist, and softer than her mother. She texted things like, "Do you need anything?" and, "I found some Christmas pictures of Amber. Do you want them?" I did not always answer, but I appreciated it. Beth, Amber's mother, was different. At first I gave her grace. She had lost her daughter. I cannot imagine that pain. She called almost every day after the funeral, asking about Amber's belongings, whether I had found certain things, whether Amber kept documents at the house. I answered because I thought she was just trying to hold on to whatever was left. Then she came over. She said she wanted Amber's winter clothes. I had packed a few boxes, but not everything. Amber's closet still smelled like her shampoo and vanilla body spray. I had opened that closet more than once and shut it again like a coward. Beth arrived with Molly. Beth wore black even though the funeral had already passed, and she held her purse against her chest like she expected me to steal it. Molly looked embarrassed before anyone even spoke. I let them in. The first half hour was quiet. Beth folded Amber's sweaters slowly. Molly found a denim jacket and started crying because Amber had worn it to her birthday dinner. I stood there feeling useless, like I was intruding on their grief inside my own house. Then Beth started walking around. Not wandering through memories. Inspecting. She paused in the kitchen and touched the cabinet handles Amber had picked. She looked at the wall Amber convinced me to paint soft green instead of beige. Then she stopped outside the guest bathroom. That bathroom had been ugly when I bought the house. Cracked vanity, old mirror, bad lighting, flooring curling at the edges. 2 years after Amber moved in, I hired a contractor to redo it. I paid the contractor, the vanity, the floor, the light fixture, and most of the materials. Amber chose the tile and spent 3 weekends obsessing over towels like it was a national emergency. Beth stared into that bathroom for a long time. Then she said, "She put so much into this house." I nodded because emotionally it was true. "She did," I said. "She made it feel like home." Beth did not look at me. "No," she said. "I mean she put money into this house." I thought I misheard her. "She helped with some things, yeah," I said. Beth turned around, and her face was no longer soft. It was sharp. "She helped build this home with you." I felt something cold move through my chest, but I stayed calm. "Beth, this was my house before Amber moved in," she said. "Maybe legally." Molly looked down immediately. That should have warned me. I told Beth she could take Amber's clothes, jewelry, books, personal items, whatever she wanted. I said I was not trying to keep anything from them. Beth said, "I am not talking about sweaters, Blake." The hallway went silent. I was holding a box with Amber's old hoodie in it while her mother stood 10 feet away from me, implying my house owed her something. Molly whispered, "Mom, not today." Beth snapped. "When, Molly?" "When he sells it," I said. "Sells what?" Beth looked at me like I was pretending not to understand. "The house." I almost laughed because it sounded absurd. I was not selling the house. I could barely walk through it without falling apart. "I'm not selling anything," I said. Beth said, "You might someday. And when you do, you'll profit from what my daughter put into it." That was when I realized she had been thinking about this before she came over. This was not grief spilling out at random. She had words ready. A theory ready. Anger ready. I told her again that Amber had never owned the house. There was no shared mortgage, no agreement, no promise of equity. We had talked about money when she moved in. I paid the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and major repairs. Amber contributed to groceries, utilities, household items, and small projects because she lived there too. Beth said, "Convenient." That one word hit me harder than it should have. Suddenly, I felt like the villain in a story I had not written. The truth was, Amber and I kept some finances separate. Not because I did not love her. Not because I was planning to leave her with nothing. We were not married yet, and both of us had seen money destroy relationships. Amber had student loans. I had the mortgage. She never asked to be added to the deed. I never asked her to pay toward ownership. We were building a life. We had not legally combined it yet. And now Beth was standing in my house, acting like that made me a thief. After they left, I sat at the kitchen table for almost an hour, staring at the box Beth had refused to take because the conversation had gone bad. Amber's hoodie was still on top. I picked it up once, pressed it to my face, and immediately felt pathetic. I wanted to call Amber. That is the worst part about death. Your brain keeps reaching for the person who would explain everything, and then you remember there is nowhere to reach. If Amber had been alive, I would have asked her. Did you feel used? Did you think the house should partly be yours? Did I miss something? But she was gone. So I was left with Beth's version of what Amber supposedly felt. 3 days later, Beth called. I almost did not answer, but guilt made me pick up. She sounded calm, which made it worse. Have you thought about settling Amber's interest in the property? She asked. Her what? Her interest. Her contribution. Her share. There is no share, Beth. You can keep saying that, she said. But we both know Amber helped increase the value of that house. I stood in my kitchen, looking at the green wall Amber had painted with me on a Saturday while laughing because she somehow got paint in her hair. She helped make it nicer, I said. That doesn't mean she owned it, Beth said. You benefited from her labor. I did not answer right away because that part was not entirely false. Amber had painted. She had planted flowers. She had helped choose fixtures. She had turned the spare room into a workspace when I started working from home more. She had made the house better. But making a house better because you live there with someone you love is not the same as buying part of it. If there are specific items Amber paid for and you have receipts, we can talk about reimbursement, I said. Beth went quiet. Then she said, This is bigger than receipts. That was when I knew we were in trouble. A week later, I got the spreadsheet. It came from Amber's uncle, Greg Vance. Greg was Beth's brother, and I had only met him a few times. He was a collector, the kind of man who talked about old coins, watches, and antique furniture like every object had a court case attached to it. I had always thought he was harmless. Just particular. The email's subject line was, Amber's contributions. My stomach turned before I opened it. The spreadsheet listed 4 years of supposed contributions Amber made to my house. Paint. Furniture. Bathroom remodel. Dishwasher. Landscaping. Flooring. Lighting. Decorations. Garden beds. Cabinet hardware. Patio furniture. Even the guest room desk was on there. At the bottom, the total was $48,600. I stared at the number until my vision blurred. Amber did not put nearly 50 grand into my house. She did not even have that kind of spare money. She was careful. She saved slowly. She complained when eggs got too expensive. She was proud when she paid extra on her student loans. She was not secretly funding renovations. Some items were real, but twisted. The dishwasher was listed as Amber paying $1,200. False. She paid half because mine died and she insisted we get the quieter model. Her part was about $500. I paid the rest. The bathroom remodel was listed as $12,000 from Amber. Completely false. The remodel cost less than that, and I paid the contractor from my account. Amber chose tile samples and bought a shower curtain. The landscaping was listed as $6,000. Also false. Amber bought plants, soil, and little garden markers. She did not pay $6,000 to landscape anything. Our backyard still looked like a muddy rectangle with ambition. Furniture was listed as $9,000. Some of it was hers from her old apartment. Some we bought together. Some I bought. But the spreadsheet made it look like Amber had furnished an empty house while I stood around smiling. I called Greg immediately. Where did you get these numbers? I asked. Beth gave me the information. I organized it. Most of this is wrong. Then you can provide your records. That sentence told me everything. They were not asking. They were building a case. I hung up before I said something I could not take back. Then I called Clayton. He came over that night still wearing his work jacket. He sat at my kitchen table, looked at the spreadsheet, and said, Do not talk to them anymore. It's not that simple, I said. He looked at me like I had lost my mind. It is exactly that simple. I told him Beth was grieving. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe Amber had vented after a fight, and Beth turned it into something bigger. Clayton pointed at the total. Blake, grieving people cry. They scream. They ask for pictures. They don't send invoices for a dead woman's boyfriend's bathroom. I hated how harsh that sounded. I hated more that he was right. Still, I could not stop thinking about Amber. Had she told Beth she put money into the house? Had she felt insecure living in a place that was legally mine? We argued about normal things. Dishes. Schedules. My habit of saying I would fix something and taking 3 months to do it. But I did not remember her ever saying she felt used. One memory kept coming back. About a year before she died, We were sitting on the back steps after dinner. Amber was pulling weeds from the garden, and I was drinking a beer, watching her work too hard for plants that did not care. She said, "Do you ever think about moving?" "Sometimes." "Why?" She shrugged. "I don't know. If we ever had kids, this yard is kind of small." I laughed. "So now the tomatoes aren't enough for you?" She threw a weed at me. Then she said, "I just mean someday. Maybe somewhere with better light. Maybe a real dining room. We can talk about it when we get there," I said. She nodded. That was it. At the time, it felt like a sweet future conversation. After Beth's spreadsheet, it felt like evidence. Maybe Amber had been thinking more seriously about ownership. Maybe she wanted a house that was legally ours too. Maybe I should have brought it up. That guilt sat on me like wet cement. My mother told me, "Beth is grabbing at money because she can't grab Amber. So what am I supposed to do?" She sighed. "Maybe offer something small. Not because she's right. Because peace has value." Clayton hated that idea. "If you give her money, she'll take it as proof you owed it." I knew he was probably right. But I was exhausted. Every call from Beth made my hands shake. Every email from Greg made me feel like I was defending myself against Amber, even though Amber was not here. That was the cruelest part. They kept using her name like a weapon, and I had no way to know what she would have said. Then Beth asked to come over again. She said she and Molly wanted to pick up the rest of Amber's clothes and some photo albums. I should have said no. I should have asked them to send a list. I should have made Clayton come over. But I was tired of being called cold in 100 different ways, so I said yes. They came on a Sunday afternoon. Molly barely spoke. Beth walked in like she owned the air. I had packed most of Amber's clothes into clear bins and placed them in the living room. I thought that would keep things simple. It did not. Beth looked at the boxes and said, "So this is what she gets reduced to." I closed my eyes for a second. "Beth, I'm trying." "No, Blake. You're protecting yourself," Molly whispered. "Mom, please." Beth ignored her. She looked around the living room, at the curtains Amber picked, the framed print above the couch, the little lamp Amber bought downtown. Then she said, "You're still living in the home my daughter helped build." "I know she helped make it a home." Beth stepped closer. "Then why are you acting like she was a guest here?" That broke something in me. "She was not a guest. I loved her." "Then honor her. Honoring Amber does not mean giving you part of my house." The room went dead quiet. Molly looked at me like I had slapped someone. Beth started crying, but it was not soft crying. It was angry. "You get the house," she said. "You get the furniture. You get the garden. You get every room she touched. We get boxes." I wanted to say I would trade the house in a second if it meant Amber walked through the front door. I wanted to say I was not winning. I was sleeping beside empty space. I was avoiding the backyard because her lavender was dying. I was eating cereal for dinner because cooking for one felt like admitting something permanent. But what came out was quieter. I got the silence too. Beth stared at me. "You think I'm living comfortably because I still have the house? I can't open the bathroom cabinet without seeing her hair ties. Her mug is still beside the sink because moving it feels like killing her again. I am not winning." For 1 second, Beth's face softened. Then it hardened. "Then do the right thing." "What is the right thing, Beth? A check? A percentage? A legal claim on a house Amber never owned? A decent man would not need to ask." Molly picked up one of the boxes and said, "We should go." Beth did not move. "I think you should leave," I said. That was the first time I had ever said anything like that to her. She looked almost satisfied, like she had been waiting for me to become the bad guy out loud. When they left, Molly would not look at me. Beth did. "You'll hear from someone," she said. 3 days later I did. The letter came from Wade Wilson, the person Beth had hired to represent Amber's estate. He called himself an estate officer, though the letter came through a small local legal office. It was not a lawsuit yet. It was a demand letter. It claimed Amber's estate may have a valid claim for reimbursement or unjust enrichment based on financial contributions, labor, and improvements made to my property during the years we lived together. They requested bank records, receipts, contractor invoices, and mediation. They also attached Greg's spreadsheet. The spreadsheet looked more official now, which somehow made the lies feel heavier. I read the letter 3 times before I understood that it was real. Beth was not just angry. She was coming for the house. Or at least for the value she believed Amber had left inside it. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun went down. The house got dark around me, but I did not turn on the lights. I kept thinking about the proposal I never got to make. The ring was still in my dresser drawer, hidden inside a box of old watch straps because Amber never looked there. I had imagined crying when I gave her that ring. I had not imagined crying because I had to hire someone to defend myself from her mother. The next morning, I called Vera Cross. She was an agent who handled property disputes and worked closely with real estate attorneys. A friend from work recommended her. I sent her the deed, mortgage statements, receipts I could find, and the demand letter. After reviewing everything, she called and said, "Blake, stop speaking directly to Beth, Greg, or anyone representing them. That feels cruel." I said. "What they are doing is not just emotional anymore. It is legal." I looked across the kitchen at Amber's empty chair. Then Vera said, "You can grieve and still protect yourself." I wanted to believe that. That night, I searched my emails for receipts. Every search term brought Amber back. Bathroom tile. Dishwasher. Garden beds. Cabinet handles. Paint. I found receipts. Bank statements. Contractor invoices. Proof that most major expenses came from me. But I also found messages from Amber. "Your contractor is finally here. I almost offered him coffee just so he'd stay and actually finish something. I found lights for your hallway. Don't panic, they are not weird. Can we please paint your kitchen green, or are you emotionally attached to landlord beige? Your contractor. Your hallway. Your kitchen. Not ours." Those words should have made me feel better. They did not. All I could think was that Amber understood the house was legally mine, and maybe that meant I had let her live in a half-life with me. Loved, but not protected. Included, but not legally safe. Close enough to make a home, but not close enough to own any part of it. That guilt almost made me call Beth and offer money just to make it stop. Then Molly texted me. "Are you awake?" I was. "Yeah. I need to tell you something, but please don't tell my mom." My stomach dropped. Then she sent a photo. It was a page from Amber's old notebook. Her handwriting was unmistakable. Small, slanted, a little messy when she was thinking fast. At the top, she had written, "Future money plan." Under it were notes about paying off debt, saving for a wedding, and maybe moving one day. Then one line hit me so hard I had to sit down. "Do not put major money into Blake's house unless married or name is added. Be smart." I read it again. "Do not put major money into Blake's house unless married or name is added. Be smart." For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Amber knew. She knew exactly what the house was. She knew the difference between helping make it a home and putting major money into property she did not own. She was not some naive woman pouring her savings into my mortgage while I quietly exploited her. She was careful. Practical. "Amber." Molly texted. "I found it while going through her things. Mom keeps saying Amber invested everything into your house. I don't think that's true." I could not answer right away. Then Molly wrote, "I'm sorry I called you cold." That broke me more than the demand letter did. Finally I typed, "Thank you. I won't tell her." Molly sent one more message. "I think Mom needs someone to blame." I looked around the kitchen, at the green walls Amber chose, at the empty chair, at the dead quiet house. And I knew Molly was right. But knowing why Beth was doing it did not mean I could let her do it. Not anymore. The next morning, I told Vera about Amber's notebook. I did not send the photo because I had promised Molly I would not drag her into it. I only said Amber had left personal notes, showing she knew not to put major money into my house unless we were married or her name was added. Vera was quiet for a second. "That matters," she said. "Can we use it?" "Maybe. But if it came from Molly, we have to be careful. I do not want to turn Amber's sister into the center of this unless we absolutely need to." That was exactly what I wanted to avoid. Molly was already trapped between a grieving mother and the man her dead sister loved. I did not want to make her choose sides in writing. Vera told me to focus on what we could prove without Molly first. So I spent the next week building a timeline I never wanted to build. I made folders on my laptop. Mortgage. Taxes. Insurance. Repairs. Contractor invoices. Home Depot receipts. Bank statements. Text messages. I separated what I paid for from what Amber paid for from what we split. It felt cold, reducing our life to categories, but Beth had already done that first. The difference was I had proof. The guest bathroom remodel was the biggest lie on Greg's spreadsheet. They claimed Amber paid $12,000 toward it. In reality, the whole remodel cost less than that, and I paid almost all of it. I found the invoice, the bank transfer, and the text where Amber joked about choosing tile like she had been elected bathroom president. The dishwasher was easy too. Amber had paid $500 toward it because she wanted the quieter model. I found the receipt. I had no problem admitting that. If Beth wanted reimbursement for Amber's half of a dishwasher, fine. That was real. The garden beds were partly Amber. The lavender, soil, wooden labels, and tomato cages she called ugly but necessary. I found maybe $300 in receipts from her account because she had once forwarded them to me with the subject line, "Look at me being a responsible plant mother." The furniture was messy. Some was mine. Some was hers from her old apartment. Some we bought together because we lived together. But nothing came close to the fantasy Greg had written down. $48,600. Every time I saw that total, I got angry again. Not just because it was wrong, but because it made Amber look reckless. It made her look like she had secretly poured everything into a house she knew she did not own. That was not who she was. Amber was emotional, yes. She bought throw pillows like medicine. She once came home with a second-hand dining table because she felt bad for it. But she was not stupid with major money. She had a notebook proving that. A notebook her own mother either had not found, had ignored, or did not want to believe. Vera drafted a response to Wade Wilson. It was calm, firm, and almost too polite. It said Amber had no ownership interest in the property. There was no written or verbal agreement granting her equity. She did not contribute to the down payment. mortgage, taxes, insurance, or major improvements in the amounts alleged, and we were willing to discuss documented reimbursement for specific personal property or verified shared purchases. Then Vera added one sentence that made me stop breathing. The estate's current demand appears to rely on estimates unsupported by financial records. That was lawyer language for, "You made this up." I approved the response. Then I waited. For 5 days, nothing happened. No calls from Beth. No emails from Greg. No messages from Wade. The silence should have helped, but it made the house feel like it was holding its breath with me. During that time, I tried to live like a person again. I went back to work. I answered emails. I smiled at clients who had no idea that while they talked about listings and numbers, I was wondering whether my dead girlfriend's mother would sue me. At night, I avoided the guest bathroom. That bathroom had become the symbol of everything. Before, it was just a room Amber liked because she picked the tile. After Beth's claim, every square inch of it felt like evidence. The vanity. The mirror. The light fixture. Even the towel hooks. One night, I stood in the doorway and remembered Amber sitting on the floor with 3 tile samples spread out in front of her. "They all look white," I had said. She looked offended. "This is warm white, this is cool white, and this one looks like a dentist's office. You work in a restaurant. Why do you have tile opinions?" "Because one of us has taste, and the other still owns a chair from college." That chair was still in the garage because Amber said it was ugly but emotionally historic. I laughed for 2 seconds, then started crying so suddenly I had to sit down on the hallway floor. That was grief. It did not ask permission. It just arrived and took your knees. The next day, Beth emailed me directly, even though Vera had told them not to contact me. The subject line was, "Amber deserves better." I should not have opened it. But I did. Beth wrote that she was disappointed in me. She said she had loved me like family. She said Amber had wasted years believing I would marry her, and now that Amber was dead, I was hiding behind paperwork. She said a decent man would not need a court to tell him what was right. Then she wrote the line that made my hands go cold. "Maybe if you had married her when you should have, none of this would be happening." I read it at least 10 times. Then I closed the laptop and walked outside. The backyard was a mess. Rain had flattened part of the lavender. The tomato cages were leaning. The little wooden labels Amber had written on were faded from sun and weather. Basil. Rosemary. Cherry tomatoes. Jalapenos. She had planted all of it because she wanted a real garden, not just sad broker grass, as she called my lawn. I sat on the back step and hated Beth. For the first time, I stopped making excuses for her. I stopped saying she was only grieving. I stopped telling myself she did not mean to be cruel. She knew exactly where to cut. She knew I had planned to marry Amber. She knew because I told her after the funeral when I was barely functioning. I told her about the ring because I thought it would comfort her. I thought knowing Amber had been loved that seriously would matter. Beth took that and turned it into a weapon. That was when my guilt changed into a line. Not peace. Not confidence. But a line. I forwarded the email to Vera and wrote, "I'm done being gentle." Vera called me 10 minutes later. "Then we respond once through me," she said. "After that, we stop engaging unless they file." "Okay. And Blake?" "Yeah? Do not offer money just to make this go away. Not now." "Why?" "Because they are not asking for closure. They are trying to create leverage. If you pay without a clear settlement, this may not end." That made sense. It also made me sad. There had been a time when Beth hugged me at Thanksgiving and called me son. There had been a time when Greg talked my ear off about antique watches while Amber made faces behind his back to make me laugh. There had been a time when Molly came over and painted Christmas ornaments with Amber at my kitchen table. Now everyone had become a position. Claimant. Estate. Representative. Property owner. Potential witness. Grief had turned us into paperwork. Vera sent one final letter. It stated that all future communication had to go through her. It rejected the unsupported demand. It included documented payments showing I paid the mortgage, taxes, insurance, contractor invoices, and major repairs. It repeated that we were willing to return Amber's personal property and discuss verified shared purchases, but we would not entertain a claim for equity in the property. Then Vera added that if Beth's side continued contacting me directly, we would document it as harassment. When I read that word, I flinched. Harassment sounded ugly. But so did. This house owes us. 2 weeks passed. Beth did not file a lawsuit. Greg stopped emailing. Wade Wilson sent one short reply saying his side was reviewing available records. Vera thought that meant they had nothing. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt empty. Because winning did not feel like winning. Winning meant Amber was still dead, her mother hated me, and the house was still full of ghosts. One Saturday morning, Molly texted and asked if she could come by alone. I hesitated. Not because I did not trust her, but because everything felt dangerous now. Every conversation felt like it could become evidence. But Molly had been kind to me when she did not have to be, so I said yes. She came over wearing paint-splattered jeans and one of Amber's old cardigans. For a second, when I opened the door, my body reacted before my brain did. The color, the shape, the familiar sweater. I almost said Amber's name. Molly noticed. Sorry, she said. I can take it off. I shook my head. No. She'd like you wearing it. Molly's eyes filled, but she did not cry. Not yet. She had come to pick up things Amber had promised her. Some art supplies, a small mirror, and a box of old photos. We went through the living room quietly. I had labeled everything I could. Then Molly saw the ring box. I had forgotten I moved it from the dresser to the bookshelf while searching for receipts. It was small and dark blue, sitting behind a stack of papers like it was trying to hide. Molly looked at it, then at me. Is that? She whispered. I nodded. She covered her mouth. For a few seconds neither of us moved. Can I see it? She asked. I should have said no. It was private. Painful. The future I never got to have. But Molly was her sister. So I opened it. The ring was simple. Not huge. Not flashy. Amber would have hated anything too dramatic. It had a small oval stone and a thin band. I had spent weeks choosing it because I kept hearing Amber in my head saying, "If it catches on sweaters, I'm suing." Molly laughed through tears when I told her that. Then she sat on the couch and cried for real. I sat beside her, not too close, because grief has its own space. After a while, she said, "My mom thinks if she gets money, it proves Amber mattered. Amber mattered without money." I know, Molly said. But Mom doesn't know what to do with all the anger. I nodded. She keeps saying you stole Amber's future, Molly said. But I think she's mad because Amber didn't get one. That sentence hit so hard I had to look away. Because that was it. Beth was not really fighting me because of tile or paint or a dishwasher. She was trying to charge someone for the future Amber lost. A wedding that did not happen. Children that never existed. A house that never became legally shared. Years that stopped mid-sentence. I understood that. But understanding it did not mean I had to pay for it. Molly asked if she could take one of Amber's lavender plants. I said yes immediately. The backyard was wet from rain. We stepped through the muddy grass to the garden beds. Most of the plants looked rough, but a few lavender stems were still alive, stubborn and gray-green. I found a pot in the shed. Molly held it while I dug up one of the smaller plants. My hands got dirty. Molly sniffled. A dog barked somewhere down the street. It was the most normal and unbearable thing I had done in months. When I handed her the pot, she hugged it to her chest. I don't think Amber would want this, she said. The lawsuit? All of it. The fighting. The spreadsheet. Making you prove you loved her. I swallowed hard. I keep wondering if I failed her. Molly looked at me. You didn't. You don't know that. I know she called this place home. That hurt. Then Molly added. But I also know she called it your house. There it was again. The truth and the guilt sitting side by side. Before she left, Molly said, I'm going to talk to Mom. You don't have to do that. I know. Molly, I don't want this to become you against her. She gave me a tired smile. It already is. She just doesn't know it yet. A few days later, Vera called. Beth's side had gone quiet after reviewing the records. Wade Wilson informed her they were not moving forward with litigation at that time. They still disagreed with my position, but they were not filing. At this time. Vera repeated carefully. So it's over? Legally, maybe for now. Emotionally, probably not. That was the most honest thing anyone had said. Beth did not apologize. Greg did not correct his spreadsheet. No one sent a message saying, Sorry we turned your grief into a financial investigation. The whole thing just went quiet. Somehow, that made me angrier. There was no dramatic court scene. No judge slamming a gavel. No moment where Beth admitted she exaggerated. No clean victory where everyone understood I was not the villain. There was just silence. But this silence felt different from the silence after Amber died. That silence swallowed me. This one gave me room to breathe. The first thing I did after Vera's call was fix the gutter. That probably sounds stupid. After everything, the gutter should not matter. But Amber had complained about that gutter for 3 years. Every hard rain, water poured off the side of the house and turned the backyard into a swamp. She used to point at it and say, That gutter is going to outlive us out of spite. She was wrong. I called a guy. He fixed it in one afternoon. When the next rain came, the water went where it was supposed to go. I stood in the kitchen and watched it like it was a miracle. Then I started working on the garden. Not all at once. I was not suddenly healed. I just went outside one evening and pulled weeds for 10 minutes. The next day, I watered what was still alive. Then I bought new soil. Then I replaced the broken garden labels. I kept the lavender. I planted rosemary because Amber loved rosemary potatoes even though she always burned them. I planted cherry tomatoes because she said grocery store tomatoes tasted like wet cardboard with confidence. Every time I worked out there, I cried less. Not because I missed her less. Because missing her started to feel less like bleeding and more like carrying something heavy. There is a difference. Beth found out the legal claim was dead, or at least not moving, and she did what I expected. She told people her version. A family friend messaged me a long paragraph about how disappointed she was that I had chosen property over compassion. Someone else said Beth told people Amber had paid for my entire remodel and I had refused to give the family even $1. At first, I wanted to defend myself to everyone. I wanted to send receipts, screenshots, bank statements, Amber's texts. I wanted to expose every inflated number in Greg's spreadsheet. I wanted people to know I was not some monster keeping a grieving mother away from her daughter's legacy. But Vera told me not to fight rumors with evidence unless they became damaging in a real way. Clayton said, "Anyone who believes that without asking you was never on your side." My mother said, "Let Beth talk. You know what is true." I hated both answers because they were right and still not satisfying. So I stayed quiet. Mostly. There was one exception. I wrote Beth a letter. I did not send it through Vera. I did not send it at first. I wrote it because I needed to put the words somewhere. I wrote that I loved Amber. I wrote that I had planned to marry her. I wrote that no amount of money would make her death fair. I wrote that I understood why the house hurt Beth to look at, because it hurt me too. Then I wrote the part one could barely admit. Maybe I should have talked to Amber more clearly about the future. Maybe I should have added her name after we got engaged. Maybe I should have proposed sooner. Maybe there were conversations we thought we had time for, and we were wrong. But I also wrote that Amber was not careless. She was not exploited. She knew what was hers, what was mine, and what we planned to build together later. Turning her love into a debt dishonored her more than anything I had done. I ended the letter with one sentence. I will not pay you for a grief either of us can afford. I never mailed it. But writing it changed something. A month later, Molly asked to meet at Forsyth Park. I almost said no because that was where I had planned to propose, and I had not been back since Amber died. But Molly said she wanted to show me something, so I went. She was sitting near the fountain with a sketchbook in her lap. She showed me a drawing of the lavender plant she had taken from the yard. The pot was on a windowsill in her apartment, sunlight hitting it from one side. "It's still alive," she said. "Amber would be shocked I managed not to kill mine." Molly smiled. Then she told me she had talked to Beth. It did not go well. Beth cried. Beth denied exaggerating. Beth said Molly was too young to understand. Beth accused her of choosing me over family. Molly told her that loving Amber did not mean punishing me forever. Then Molly showed Beth the notebook. My stomach dropped. "Molly, I told you I wouldn't use that." "You didn't," she said. "I did." "What happened?" Molly looked at the fountain for a long time before answering. She got quiet. That was all. Beth did not apologize. She did not call me. She did not send a letter. But after that conversation, according to Molly, Beth stopped talking about court. She stopped mentioning equity. She stopped telling people she was going to make me pay. It was not justice exactly. But it was something. A calm victory, maybe. The kind where no one claps, but the knife gets put down. I still live in the house. That surprises some people. A few friends suggested I sell it and start over somewhere else. They said there were too many memories, too much pain, too much history soaked into the walls. Maybe they are right. But I do not want to leave. Not yet. This house is complicated. It is mine legally. It was ours emotionally. It is where Amber danced barefoot in the kitchen while making grilled cheese at midnight. It is where she argued with me about paint colors. It is where she fell asleep on the couch during movies and denied it with her whole chest. It is where she planted lavender by the fence because she said every house needed something that smelled calm. It is also where her mother tried to turn those memories into a claim. Both things are true. That is what makes it hard. Sometimes I still feel guilty. I wonder if I hid behind paperwork because it was easier than facing how unfinished our life was. I wonder if Amber would have wanted me to give Beth something just to ease the pain. I wonder if keeping the house makes me strong or selfish. Then I remember the notebook. Do not put major money into Blake's house unless married or name is added. Be smart. Amber had protected herself in the only way she needed to at the time. She trusted me, but she was not blind. She loved the house, but she knew it was mine. She wanted a future with me, but she had not confused hope with ownership. That helps. It does not fix everything, but it helps. Beth and I have not spoken in 2 months. Molly and I text sometimes. Nothing heavy. Pictures of the lavender. Old photos of Amber. Once, she sent me a picture of Amber wearing a ridiculous paper crown at a restaurant shift party, and I laughed for the first time that week. Greg disappeared completely after his spreadsheet fell apart. Wade Wilson never contacted us again. Vera closed the file but told me to keep everything. So I have a folder on my computer labeled House Records, and I hate that it exists. It feels like a scar. Necessary, but ugly. The ring is still here too. I moved it from the dresser to a small box in the closet with Amber's letters and a few photos. I do not know what else to do with it. Selling it feels wrong. Giving it away feels worse. Keeping it hurts, but some things are allowed to hurt. Last week, I finally moved Amber's mug from beside the sink. That sounds small, but it took 9 months. I washed it by hand, dried it, and put it on the top shelf of the cabinet. Not hidden. Not displayed like a shrine. Just placed somewhere safe. Then I stood in the kitchen with the green wall she chose, listening to the quiet, and for once, the quiet did not crush me. It just existed. I think that is what healing looks like sometimes. Not happiness. Not closure with a neat little bow. Just a moment where the pain stops screaming and becomes part of the room. I do not hate Beth anymore. Some days I get close. But mostly, I think Beth wanted someone to pay because death gave her no one to punish. She looked at me and saw the man who still had the house, the rooms, the garden, the proof that Amber had lived and loved somewhere that was not Beth's home. I understand why that hurt her. But I cannot let her hurt become my debt. I loved Amber. I wanted to marry her. I wanted years we did not get. I wanted the boring things too. Grocery lists. Bad weather. Arguing over bills. Fixing the gutter before she could complain about it for a fourth year. I wanted to grow old enough with her that this house became one chapter, not the place where the whole story ended. But life did not give us that. It gave me a deed with only my name on it, a ring she never wore, a garden she never got to finish, and a family who almost convinced me that protecting myself meant betraying her. I do not believe that anymore. Keeping the house does not mean Amber meant nothing. Refusing to pay her mother does not mean I loved Amber less. And defending the truth does not make me cold, even if it makes me the villain in someone else's grief. So I am staying. I am keeping the house. I am keeping the garden alive. I am fixing what I can fix, and learning to live with what I cannot. Maybe one day I will sell the house. Maybe one day I will move somewhere with better light and a real dining room, like Amber once imagined. If that day comes, I will know the profit came from years of mortgage payments, repairs, taxes, and work. I will also know some of the warmth came from her. Both can be true. And maybe that is the part people will argue about. Because yes, Amber helped make this house a home. But she did not leave it to her mother. She left me memories, and Beth tried to turn them into a bill. So am I wrong for refusing to give my late girlfriend's mother money from a house I legally owned, even though her daughter helped make it feel like home?